Larger concern, the amount of Americans who have no idea that with the W-band technology we've had since 1995, you can reach through a human body, look through their eyeballs, lift their arms, turn off their breathing. That's just getting started.
What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, your body is transmitting data? Not your phone, not your smartwatch. You, your heartbeat, your breath, the electrical signals firing between your neurons, the electromagnetic field your body generates just by being alive. What if that field, the one scientists once dismissed as pseudoscience, the one your doctor has never once mentioned, has actually been quietly mapped, standardized, and connected to the same wireless infrastructure your phone uses to send a text? And what if one woman has been screaming about this for years, and almost nobody is listening? Her name is Sabrina Wallace. She goes by Psinergy online. She calls herself a network engineer, a whistleblower, and a survivor of covert government experimentation. She posts long, dense, sometimes chaotic videos on the fringe corners of the internet, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and she has built a devoted following of people who believe she is telling the world something that the world desperately does not want to hear. Is she right? Is she unwell? Is she something more complicated than either of those answers? By the end of this video, I don't think you'll have a clean answer, but I promise you'll never think about your body or your wireless network quite the same way again. To understand Sabrina Wallace, you have to understand the world she says she was born into. She claims she didn't stumble onto this information. She says she was born inside it. According to Sabrina, her grandfather worked black projects at Boeing. Her father was a SIGINT veteran, signals intelligence, a man she says was known in Las Vegas circles as Dr. Stereo. Her mother, she claims, was connected to secret Space Force programs. She describes growing up surrounded by radios, mathematics, and classified technology.
Self-control and peace in my heart it must take to sit here in front of you and tell you this, having survived testing for it that ended before I was 11 years old. I'm 44. So the testing for what we're all living through right now ended for me at 11 years old.
A childhood shaped not by Saturday cartoons, but by the language of frequencies, encryption, and things you weren't supposed to talk about outside the house. And then, she says, something was done to her. Sabrina claims she was used as a DARPA test subject as a child, part of what she describes as human augmentation experiments under the DARPA N2 program. She says she has been, in her own words, an augmented, non-invasive, free-range human ever since. She claims this experimentation left her disabled by 2004, and that she has lived with the consequences, physical, psychological, and electromagnetic, every day since. Now, none of that has been independently verified. Here's what is verifiable. Sabrina Wallace knows computer networking, genuinely knows it. She describes working as a network engineer for Charter Communications, building out internet infrastructure from the dial-up era to cable modem in the late 1990s. People who have engaged with her technical content, including engineers, have largely agreed that her understanding of networking architecture, wireless standards, and signal transmission is not made up. It's real knowledge, deployed in a very unusual direction. She first gained wider attention when she appeared on TikTok, delivering dense, fast-talking monologues about body area networks and biofields. The presentation was raw, sometimes frantic, sometimes hard to follow. A lot of people scrolled past, but some stopped. And then they couldn't stop watching.
This is my great uncle's folder from Shepherd Air Force Base. I often also show his Aberdeen Proving Ground stuff. Why? So that people understand that this has been going on for a really long time. So tell me how your phone works. When you click a button and you send an email, you don't see the email leave the phone. It's a wireless, invisible signal, just like your body. You know that the human immune system is 80% your biofield. You called it the aura, you called it stupid. Yeah, I know. That's because 6,000 years of human telemetry, chiropractic, and the rest of it for your circulatory system just magically disappeared. Nobody has any idea what's going on. That was 6,000 years of the human circulatory system. You call it chakras. Yeah, they call it aim and fire. 150 years ago, Aleister Crowley and people, yeah, nothing's real except what you can see. There is no biofield. There's no cymatics, there's no radionics, there's no plasmonics. There's nothing except what you can see. Well, the human biofield is the aura, is your W-band, 802.15.6. Department of Defense Directive 3000.09, everything is autonomous. And you have an MQ-9 Reaper drone attached to your skin and bone. That's a big bird for those of you that know. She's huge.
She has since migrated to less moderated platforms, where she continues to post what she calls free educational content, tutorials for people who have been deliberately kept ignorant about what is being done to their bodies. So who is she, really? A credentialed insider blowing the lid off a decades-long conspiracy? A self-taught engineer who went down a very dark rabbit hole and never came back? Or something that doesn't fit neatly into either of those boxes? Let's look at what she's actually claiming, because that's where it gets genuinely fascinating. So let's get into the meat of what Sabrina Wallace is actually alleging. Because once you move past the biofield basics, the claims escalate. Fast. At the center of her framework is a simple but staggering assertion that your body has already been made commercially available to the cloud, not metaphorically, not in the sense that your data is being sold by apps. Literally. She claims that since at least 2005, the electromagnetic field of your body, your biofield, has been tethered to the same wireless infrastructure your phone uses, and that this was done without public disclosure, without consent.
There that keep lying like you're 2 years old. You won't admit the body's electrical. You don't admit the aura is a body part. So you make it pure hell to explain to people what their new graphene healthcare actually is. We try to explain to them there are biosensors. You lie. You tell them there is no biofield. So then they're totally fucking confused. And then they're like, well, how did you get the biosensors in us? Your body's electrical. We create them and pull them off of you. Because you're connected to the cloud. How could that? Because your body's electrical. You're connected to the cloud. And your body's electrical with biosensors that we're putting in you and taking out of you. See how easy that is? And then we have your DNA frequency and resonance on a bioelectromagnetic predictive algorithm that we give to somebody else. 3 levels of cybersecurity, and we are always watching. We're using your human anatomy, formerly known as the human aura, in order to transduce electrical signals in and out of your body for the new biological to digital convergence.
DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the Pentagon's Blue Sky Research Division, has publicly acknowledged programs focused on neural interfaces and human augmentation. N2 refers to non-invasive neurotechnology. N3 is next-generation non-surgical neurotechnology, a program explicitly aimed at developing brain-computer interfaces that don't require surgery, reading neural signals, potentially writing them, all without opening up your skull. The goal, officially, is to give soldiers faster, more intuitive control over drones, weapon systems, and battlefield technology using thought alone. DARPA calls it a national security capability. Sabrina calls it the infrastructure of synthetic telepathy, and she claims it doesn't stay on the battlefield. Sabrina argues that the technology exists and is actively deployed to remotely read and influence human thought through electromagnetic means. She connects this to a body of research on microwave auditory effects, neural signal interception, the transmission of sound directly into a person's auditory system via microwave frequencies, bypassing the ears entirely. Again, some of this has a real foundation. The microwave auditory effect, also known as the Frey effect, is documented science. The US Army has held patents related to it, but the distance between this phenomenon exists under controlled laboratory conditions. And the government is beaming thoughts into civilian populations through the wireless network is vast. The global information grid. This is where her framework reaches its largest scale. Sabrina argues that the Department of Defense has built, and is operating, something called the Global Information Grid, or GIG. The GIG is a real DoD architecture. It is a worldwide system of information infrastructure intended to connect all US military assets, satellites, ground systems, weapons platforms, personnel, into one unified network. What Sabrina argues is that the human body has been incorporated into this grid as a node. That through WBAN technology, biosensors, and the exploitation of the biofield, every person on Earth is, knowingly or not, a data point in a military information architecture. She argues that what the public calls the Internet of Things is actually the outer edge of a system that includes the Internet of Bodies, and that the bodies in question are yours and mine. She points to real military programs to support this. Project Salus was a health monitoring initiative that aggregated soldiers' vital signs, location data, and biological markers into centralized command platforms. The Hades system, High Accuracy Detection and Exploitation System, uses airborne platforms to map the electromagnetic signatures of humans on a battlefield. These programs exist. Their stated purposes are military. Sabrina's argument is that the civilian population is next, or already there. Biosensors and the blood. Perhaps her most controversial specific claim is about biosensors. Sabrina argues that biosensors are not something that needs to be injected or implanted, that the body's own components, red blood cells, electrical gradients, ion channels, function as natural biosensors that can be interrogated wirelessly. She says the body is already instrumented by its own biology, and that external systems can read from those natural sensors without any physical intervention. While the body does have measurable electrical and electromagnetic properties, the idea that those properties can be remotely read with the precision and resolution Sabrina describes goes far beyond anything currently demonstrated in peer-reviewed research. She says the information stands on its own. Look at the IEEE standard. Look at the DARPA program. Look at the patent filings. Don't take her word for it. Go read it yourself. And here's the thing. When people do that, when they pull the thread she points to, they often find something real at the end of it. The WBAN standard is real. The military health monitoring programs are real. The research on intra-body communication is real. The patents exist. Cannot be verified is the interpretive layer she places over all of it. The claim that these technologies are being used covertly on civilian populations right now. The claim that the biofield is being harvested through the cellular network in real time has no corroboration outside of her own account. There's one more dimension to this that's worth sitting with. Before we can understand what Sabrina Wallace is alleging, we need to understand the concept at the center of everything she talks about: the human biofield. It sounds like something you'd see on a wellness influencer's Instagram. Crystal healing, aura photography, energy work. And for a long time, mainstream science treated it exactly that way, with dismissal, eye rolls, and the label of pseudoscience. But here's where it gets interesting. The human body is, at its core, an electrical system. Your heart generates a measurable electromagnetic field that extends several feet outside your body. Your neurons fire using electrical signals. Your cells maintain voltage gradients. Your blood moves ions. You are, in a very literal and measurable sense, a walking electromagnetic event. The term biofield was actually formally introduced in 1994, not by a mystic, but by a panel convened by the National Institutes of Health. It was defined as a field of energy and information that surrounds and permeates living systems. Since then, legitimate researchers have studied biophoton emissions, the electromagnetic properties of DNA, and the measurable electrical activity of tissues. But here's where the line gets complicated, and where Sabrina Wallace plants her flag. She argues that the biofield isn't just a biological curiosity. It is a functional data channel, a transmittable, receivable, networkable signal. While the public was told the biofield didn't even exist, she points to something very real to make her case: the IEEE 802.15.6 standard. IEEE stands for the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, the body that sets global technical standards for wireless communication. And 802.15.6 is their standard for wireless body area networks.
802.15.4 in computer networking. Your wide body area network is what those frequencies are seeking. The system for the emergency broadcast is tied into the backbone of the United States when we send out a signal for our emergency broadcast. And we want to make sure that it goes out to each individual node. We do not only send the signal to a phone or a computer. Since 2005, we send the signal to your body because your body is 802.15.6, the wireless body area network node. These systems that I'm explaining to you right now are used for information surveillance and reconnaissance, because we also have to have the ability to create an ad hoc vehicular network versus mesh networking only with machine-to-machine encryption for our autonomous weapon systems with lethal autonomous drones that will then hunt you by the same wireless body area network in the same way, because it's net-centric warfare. So it had to have a way that no matter where you lived and no matter where you connected, we could still hit you on the physical layer and route details with and for you, for your telehealth, for the metaverse, for your smart city.
WBANs. These are real. They are used in medical devices, fitness monitors, hospital telemetry systems, and emerging consumer technology. The standard defines how sensors on, in, or near the human body can communicate wirelessly with each other and with external networks. Sabrina's argument is simple. If the IEEE has a published standard for treating your body as a wireless network node, and they do, then the infrastructure to exploit your biofield already exists, has existed for years, and was built without your knowledge or consent. She takes it further. She argues that the body doesn't even need external implants to participate in this network. She points to research on intra-body communication, the use of the body's own tissues, fluids, and electrical properties as a transmission medium. The skin, the blood, the bones. All of it already conducts and transmits signal. You are already the antenna. You were born with it. The leap from the body can conduct electrical signals to the government is harvesting your breath data through your red blood cells is an enormous one, and it is not supported by peer-reviewed evidence. But Sabrina would tell you that's exactly what they want you to think. And that tension between what is technically real and what is being claimed about it is the engine that drives her entire worldview. Here is what I think is worth taking from the story of Sabrina Wallace, regardless of where you land on her credibility. The body is becoming a data source. That is happening right now in the open, with corporate press releases and academic papers attached to it. The question of who owns that data, who can access it, and what they can do with it is one of the defining questions of the next 20 years. And right now, most people are not asking it. The history of government surveillance programs teaches us that the most important question is never, could this be misused? It's, what happens when it is? And the answer, historically, has been, not much. At least not for the people doing the misusing. MKUltra was real. COINTELPRO was real. Mass NSA surveillance was real. All of it was, at one point, the kind of thing that got you labeled paranoid for suggesting. All of it eventually came out. Too late for the people it was done to. I am not telling you that Sabrina Wallace is right. I am telling you that the instinct to pay attention to what is being built around and inside the human body and to ask hard questions about who controls it is not a crazy instinct. It is, arguably, the most rational instinct available to us right now. So look up the IEEE 802.15.6 standard. Read about DARPA's N3 program. Look into the Rand Corporation's Internet of Bodies white paper. Come to your own conclusions. Don't take Sabrina Wallace's word for it. Don't take mine either. But don't look away. Because whatever Sabrina Wallace is, whistleblower, visionary, cautionary tale, or some haunting combination of all three, the world she is describing is arriving. The infrastructure is being built. The standards are being written. The data is being collected. And the woman standing in the signal, waving her arms, telling you to pay attention? Whether she's right or wrong about the details, she might be right about the urgency. Thanks for watching. If this video made you think, or made you uncomfortable, that means it did its job. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Question everything, including this. I'll see you in the next one.